What if a single photograph could change everything? Emma Hayes thought she had found the perfect home for her family until she discovered a photo in the attic. A smiling family and something watching from the shadows. Its eyes glowed faintly, unblinking, and it didn't belong in this world. That night, their house became a prison, and nothing would ever be the same. Would you dare to look closer, or would you run before it's too late? It all began with a photograph. Emma Hayes had just moved into her new home in a quiet suburban town in America. The house was everything she had dreamed of. A white picket fence, a sprawling backyard, and a cozy living room where the sunlight poured in every morning. She had bought it for her family, her husband, Mark, and their 2 children, Lily and Ben. Life had been hectic in the city, and this was meant to be a fresh start, a place where laughter replaced the relentless hum of traffic and deadlines. One rainy evening, while unpacking boxes in the attic, Emma stumbled upon a dusty old photo album hidden in the corner. The album wasn't hers, nor was it part of the things the previous owners had left behind. It seemed older, almost out of place. Curiosity tugged at her, and she blew the layer of dust off the cover. The album contained photographs of families, holidays, birthdays, but one picture stopped her cold. It was a family portrait, a smiling family standing in front of a house that looked eerily similar to hers, but something about it was wrong. The father in the photograph. His eyes were hollow. Not the kind of tiredness that comes from long days at work, but a deep emptiness, like he was staring into something that didn't exist. The mother's smile was frozen, forced, and the children's expressions were strange, almost knowing. But what terrified Emma the most was the figure in the background. At first glance, it looked like a shadow, a trick of the light, but then she saw it clearly. A creature, humanoid in shape but grotesque, lurking behind the smiling family. Its eyes glowed faintly in the photograph, unblinking, unrelenting. Emma shook her head. It had to be a trick of the camera, or perhaps someone's idea of a joke, but a chill ran down her spine as she felt eyes on her, not from the photograph, but from somewhere in the attic itself. The next morning, Emma tried to dismiss it as imagination, but the sense of being watched didn't go away. Lily, her 10-year-old daughter, was unusually quiet during breakfast, staring at a corner of the kitchen where nothing seemed to exist. Ben, her 7-year-old son, kept whispering about the man in the shadow he saw in his dreams, describing a figure that matched the creature in the photo exactly. Emma wanted to laugh it off, to tell herself it was nothing more than overactive imaginations fueled by unpacking stress. But deep inside, a knot of fear tightened in her chest. That evening, she decided to investigate. She took the photograph and compared it to the layout of her home. The house in the picture was identical. The living room, the staircase, even the pattern of the wooden floor. But this house had been built only 20 years ago. There was no way the photograph could predate it. Then she noticed something even more disturbing. A shadow on the wall in the photograph, seemingly cast by the monstrous figure, aligned perfectly with the staircase in her own home. Emma's hands trembled as she whispered to herself, "This can't be real. It just can't." But deep down, she already feared it was. That night, as the rain lashed against the windows, Emma lay awake, listening to the creaks of the house settling. Somewhere in the darkness, a soft thud echoed from the attic. She told herself it was the wind, but the thought was weak against the growing unease that someone was watching. Emma didn't sleep. And when the sun rose, she knew that nothing in her life would ever be the same. What if the house you thought was safe held a secret far older and darker than anyone could imagine? What is this creature, and why is it so obsessed with the family in the photograph? The following week felt like a waking nightmare for Emma. Every corner of the house seemed to whisper secrets she wasn't meant to hear. The creaks and groans of the old wooden floor, the distant hum of the heating system, everything sounded like footsteps trailing her. She tried to focus on normal life. Breakfasts with the kids, school drop-offs, and work calls filled her hours. But the photograph and the creature in it haunted her mind relentlessly. She even tried showing it to Mark, hoping he would laugh it off and reassure her. But when Mark looked at it, his reaction chilled her to the bone. What is this?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. His eyes were fixed on the shadowy figure in the back of the photograph. "I found it in the attic," Emma explained, her hands trembling. "I don't understand. It looks like it's in our house, but this photo, I think it's older than this house." Mark frowned, rubbing his temples. "Emma, I don't know. Maybe it's just an old prank someone left behind. A staged photo? I mean, it's weird, sure, but..." He trailed off, his voice uncertain. But Emma knew better. There was something in that photograph that wasn't a trick. Something alive. Something patient. That night, the house changed. The children were asleep. Mark had retreated to his study, and Emma sat on the couch, trying to calm herself with a cup of tea. But then she heard it, a soft scratching sound coming from the living room wall. She froze. The sound grew louder, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across the wallpaper. Emma stood, gripping the edge of the couch. "Hello?" she whispered. No answer. She moved closer to the sound, heart pounding, and noticed something she hadn't before. A shadow moving against the far wall, subtle, almost blending with the darkness. It wasn't the streetlight outside or a trick of her imagination, it was something alive. Her breath caught as she realized it was shaped like the creature from the photograph. Tall, thin, unnervingly still, its glowing eyes barely visible in the dim light. She blinked, and it was gone, but the scratching continued, now coming from the staircase. Emma wanted to call Mark, but her phone wouldn't turn on. The battery, fully charged earlier, now displayed only a black screen. Panic surged through her as the realization hit. The house itself was holding them in. She rushed to the staircase, and there it was, a fleeting glimpse of a shadow climbing the steps, silent and deliberate. Her heart raced, her pulse hammering in her ears. She called for the kids. Lily's bedroom door was locked, even though she remembered locking it herself. Ben was nowhere in sight. Emma's world narrowed to fear, pure and sharp. She felt herself slipping into a state of desperate vigilance. Every door, every hallway, every corner could hide the thing from the photograph. And then she heard Ben's voice, faint but unmistakable, coming from the attic. "Mom, it's here. It's watching us." Emma's blood ran cold. She realized the attic wasn't just a room full of old boxes, it was a doorway, a place where the creature existed and observed, and somehow it had found them. She took a deep breath, fighting panic, and made her way to the attic stairs, each creak sounding like a scream in the silent house. The door loomed above her, a black rectangle against the dim hallway light. Her hand trembled as she reached for the knob, and at that moment, a shadow darted across the ceiling, almost as if it was mocking her courage. Emma opened the attic door. It was empty, but then she noticed something chilling. The photograph she had found earlier was now lying on the attic floor, open to the page with the creature, and on the wall behind it, faint scratches formed words. Emma stepped back, her mind screaming, "This isn't real! This isn't real!" But deep down, she knew. Whatever was in the photograph had followed them, and it wasn't going anywhere. How do you fight something that seems to exist between reality and your darkest fears? Can a family survive when their home is no longer safe? The Hayes family had never felt more alone, even though they were together. The days blurred into nights, each hour stretching endlessly as the invisible weight of the creature pressed down on them. Emma couldn't sleep. Mark tried to pretend everything was normal, but his forced calm only made the tension worse. And the children, the children were changing in ways she didn't understand. It started with Lily. She no longer laughed or played as she used to. She would stare at corners of the house for minutes at a time, whispering softly to someone or something that wasn't there. At dinner, she barely touched her food, her tiny hands clutching the edge of the table as if bracing herself against invisible pressure. "Lily, honey, are you okay?" Emma asked one evening, her voice trembling. "She's fine," Mark said quickly, avoiding her gaze. But Emma could see it in his eyes' fear, the same fear she felt every time she caught a shadow flicker in the corner of her vision. Then there was Ben. He had begun speaking about the creature openly, describing it in horrifying detail. "It comes at night," he whispered from his bed one evening, the moonlight casting his small face in silver. "It watches me while I sleep. It knows what I'm thinking. It wants me to look at it." Emma felt her chest tighten. "Ben, it's just a dream, sweetheart. It's not real." But Ben shook his head violently. "It's real, Mom. I saw it today, in the hallway, behind the stairs. It's always there. It's waiting." That night, Emma decided she couldn't ignore it anymore. She grabbed a flashlight and crept through the house, following the sounds of faint scratching and soft whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Every shadow was a threat, every creak a warning. She passed the living room, the hallway, the staircase, and then she stopped cold. There it was, a shadow, darker than anything in the night, moving with impossible fluidity. Its eyes faintly glowing red fixed on her. Emma froze, paralyzed by the pure intensity of its gaze. She couldn't see details, but she felt its presence, heavy and suffocating. And then it spoke, not with words, but a whisper in her mind, soft and slow. "You shouldn't be here. Leave or stay forever." Emma stumbled back, heart pounding, but her fear was mingled with anger. No creature, real or imagined, was going to terrorize her family. She ran to Mark's study. "Mark, we need to leave, now!" Mark, still trying to rationalize everything, shook his head. "Emma, it's just shadows, nothing more." But the house seemed to disagree. The lights flickered violently. Doors slammed shut on their own. From the attic came the faintest giggle of Ben, though he was standing right in front of them. And on the walls, faint scratches had appeared again. "Don't go. Stay with us." Emma's hands shook as she grabbed the children. "We're leaving," she said firmly. But when they tried the front door, it wouldn't budge. The lock, unbroken a moment ago, now resisted every pull and twist. Windows refused to open. The house had become a cage. Mark's rationality finally cracked. "Emma, we need to call someone, police. Anyone." The phone lines were dead. Their cell phones were dead. Even the landline, which had worked perfectly before, now lay silent. Then Lily screamed. Emma ran toward the sound and found her daughter staring at the staircase, frozen in terror. And on the staircase, as if etched into the shadows themselves, was the silhouette of the creature, larger than before, almost human in form, but twisted, monstrous, unblinking. Emma's blood ran cold. "It's here," she whispered, hugging Lily and Ben close. "It's here, and it knows we're afraid." The creature didn't move, but its presence was undeniable, pressing down on them, suffocating them. It was waiting, patient, eternal. Emma realized the horrifying truth. This wasn't a house haunting. They were trapped in its world, a world dictated by the creature in the photograph, and in that moment, she understood the most terrifying part of all. Fear was the key to its power. What would you do if your home, the place you believed was safe, became a prison controlled by something beyond reason? Would you face it, or let fear consume the fourth day, the Hayes family was living in a nightmare they couldn't escape. Sleep had become impossible. Every shadow, every creak, every whisper filled them with dread. The creature from the photograph wasn't just present, it was taking over their home, shaping it to its will. Emma, Mark, Lily, and Ben moved cautiously from room to room, feeling the house shift beneath their feet. The walls seemed closer, the ceilings lower, the familiar corners of their home now twisted and unrecognizable. Doors that were once open now led to walls. Hallways stretched into darkness that had no end. Mark tried to take control. "We need to stay calm," he said, his voice shaking. "We have to find a way out logically." But logic had no power here. Lily refused to leave her bedroom, clutching a stuffed rabbit as if it could protect her. She whispered constantly to someone unseen, "Please, leave us alone." Ben, however, had grown bolder, talking openly to the creature. "We're not afraid of you," he said one evening, staring into a corner where shadows twisted unnaturally. "We don't belong to you." Emma felt a chill run through her. The creature's power seemed to grow whenever fear was present, but when defiance appeared, it reacted. The shadows pulsed, flickering violently, and the temperature in the room dropped. That night, the house screamed, not with sound, but with movement. The walls shook, objects toppled, windows rattled as if the very structure of the home was alive. Emma clutched Mark's arm. "We need to stay together," she shouted over the storm inside their house. Then came the whispers. Hundreds of voices, echoing from everywhere and nowhere, repeating the same words over and over. "Stay, stay, stay." Emma realized the house itself was communicating. The creature wasn't just in the shadows, it was the house, and it had no intention of letting them leave. Desperation overcame them. Emma grabbed a hammer from the kitchen drawer. Mark found a flashlight and a small fire extinguisher. They moved together, protecting their children as they attempted to force the front door open. But the door wouldn't budge. It wasn't just locked, it was sealed, fused to the frame as if the house itself had grown around it. Windows cracked and slammed when they tried to open them, leaving splintered glass scattered on the floor. In the attic, the source of the creature's power, the photograph, glowed faintly, as if alive. Emma realized it was the anchor holding the entity to this world. She needed to destroy it. With Mark and the kids behind her, she climbed the attic stairs, heart pounding. Each step felt heavier, as though the house resisted her. She reached the photograph and raised the hammer, but before she could strike, the shadows erupted. They twisted around her, whispering, clawing, trying to stop her. Emma screamed, "I will not let you control us!" And then, as her hammer connected with the photograph, a blinding light filled the attic. The house shook violently. A deafening, echoing wail filled the air. Shadows screamed, recoiled, and then vanished. For a moment, silence. The Hayes family was standing in the attic, trembling, soaked in sweat and tears. The house was still. The oppressive weight was gone. The photograph was reduced to ashes in Emma's hands. But as they descended the stairs, Emma noticed something terrifying. Faint scratches on the walls, forming a new message. "We will return." Emma hugged her children tightly. "We survived, for now," she whispered. But deep down, she knew. The battle was over, but the war was not. The creature had been pushed back, but not destroyed. What would you do if the terror you fought so hard to escape promised to return? Can a family ever truly feel safe again? Filled their lives. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a place of silent judgment. Every creak, Every flicker of light reminded them that what had invaded their home might return. Yet, for the first time in days, Emma allowed herself a small moment of relief. They were alive. Mark stayed close to the children, helping Lily with her homework and coaxing Ben to play outside. The normal rhythm of life returned, but the photograph, burned to ash, haunted Emma's thoughts. She couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a cursed object. Driven by a mixture of fear and determination, Emma began researching the history of their house. What she discovered left her stunned. The land on which their home had been built had once belonged to a family who had mysteriously vanished decades ago. Rumors spoke of strange sightings, shadowy figures in windows, unexplained cold spots, whispers in empty rooms. And the photograph, it had been found in the attic of the previous house on that land. Emma realized the horrifying truth. The creature wasn't just haunting the house, it was tied to the land, the family who had lived there, and anyone who dared call it home. Every family, every life it touched became part of its story. The shadows, the whispers, the fear, they were all part of a cycle, a living memory that waited patiently for new occupants. That night, the Hayes family gathered in the living room. Mark held the children close. Emma stared at the walls, half expecting the shadows to return. "Do you think it's gone?" Lily whispered, her small voice trembling. Emma hesitated. "I don't know, honey. I think we made it leave for now. But we have to be careful. Sometimes, some things never really leave, they just wait." Ben, usually so bold, clutched his mother's hand tightly. "Will it come back?" Emma looked into his eyes, fighting the fear rising in her chest. "If we let fear control us, yes. But if we stay together and remember that love is stronger than fear, maybe it won't ever have power over us again." For a moment, peace seemed possible. The house, though familiar again, felt different. The darkness no longer seemed endless. But the whispers of the past lingered in Emma's mind. She realized that some battles are never truly over. They only change form, waiting for the right moment to return. And that's when the argument began in her mind, a question she couldn't ignore. If evil, fear, or darkness is patient and persistent, does the safety of a home and family ever truly exist? Or is courage and unity the only thing standing between us and the unknown horrors that lie just beyond the walls we call safe? Emma didn't have an answer, but as she held her children close and felt Mark's reassuring hand on her shoulder, she knew one thing for certain. Fear may wait, but love and courage can be stronger even against the darkest shadows. The house was quiet, for now. Can we ever truly escape the things that haunt us? Or is the only way forward to face them together, with courage and love? Drop your answer in the comments section. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the subscription button on your screen, like, and share it to someone who may need to hear it. Stay safe.